Hi, welcome to the Crafty Mariana Podcast. I am your host, Mariana, former corporate marketing girly turned crafting workshop host. And if you ever thought, can my crafts actually make money? Then this is the show for you. Each episode, I share stories from creative entrepreneurs who dare to think a little bit different and went beyond the make and sell model, along with lessons from my own journey building a six-figure workshop business. You can expect honest conversations about what it really takes to build a creative business. So grab yourself a cup of tea and let's dive in. I think we are recording. Yay. Hi, welcome to another Crafty Mariana podcast. Today we have Liz Chick from RecCreate, which is a really awesome studio in New York City, which I think has been running for 2-3 years, if I'm not mistaken. And they run a variety of like really awesome workshops, a lot of collaborations, and it just seems like a place full of life, kind of like exactly what I wanted to create. And I guess I was kind of on the way to do that until my health kind of collapsed. But without going into much, because it's not about me, I will pass it on to Liz for her to introduce herself a bit better and explain what she does, kind of her background. There's a lot of questions like about like your origin, how it all started, that usually are a lot of the questions that I also get answered that you might by yourself answer them. Otherwise, I will ask you. But without further ado, I will pass it on to Liz. Can you take us back to like the early kind of what led to opening the space, what you were doing before, and how kind of it all came together?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. So excited to be here. Yeah, so I run RecCreate Collective. We are a creative hospitality company. We host all different kinds of art and craft workshops and clubs, private events. We have a newsletter. And it all started very organically. I get asked often, like, how did I like think of the idea? And I never like sat down and like had the idea for RecCreate. But I was in a terrible desk job right out of college. And I was in a windowless office and I was just like going so crazy every day. And I would just like leave with all of this insane, like pent up energy. And I just needed to put it somewhere. And so I had learned a little bit of natural dye in college. I had a business degree from an art school. It's like a fun mashup that has suited me very well in my career.
That's really handy.
And yeah, sorry for any background ambulances.
That's okay. It's New York.
Yeah. And so I started getting into that. I would like dye things with tea, like avocado pits. I started like getting really into like all different forms of natural dye, specifically with like food waste, was very into like sustainability. And I just loved how tactile it was, how hands-on it was. And it just gave me such like a great outlet after I got off work. And so I started like I have chronically tried to turn everything I've done in my life into a business. So I was like, oh my gosh, I have to sell these. And so what I was doing was I was dyeing muslin fabric and then I was waxing it to make like beeswax wraps, which is like a sustainable plastic alternative. And so I was like, I'm going to do a big craft fair. I like got accepted to like the Renegade in LA. I was like, I'm going to fly out there. This is going to be like my launch. And it was supposed to be in like May of 2020. So that never happened.
Yeah.
And we all, like everybody else, we kind of went inside of our apartments. And so that's when it was like very clear that like I was so grateful to have like this creative outlet, but there was still kind of this piece missing of like I was just kind of doing it alone. Like my roommates were around sometimes. For the most part, it was just me. So then I started getting into like different forms of that. I started doing like different like patchwork pieces. I started doing some craft fairs. And then at the time, I like went through a lot of different jobs. I've never really loved working for other people. And I was working teaching recycling to students, and the company I worked for was like, hey, you should make like a natural dye workshop plan for teachers. And so I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. And so I had put that together, and that was kind of my first experience with like turning something that I loved into like a workshop format. And so I kind of went on to literally try to turn my like natural dye work into an event in any way I possibly could. I would host like collaborative pop-ups. I would do workshops. I would work a lot with like florists, and we do like natural dye plus floral arrangement workshops. And so that's how I kind of like initially started to teach, and I really loved it. And then I was like still upcycling these full collections with natural dye all out of like my tiny New York City apartment. And so I really was like so into it, and I didn't know how it was going to be like a full business, but I was like, somehow it has to happen. And so I was really looking for a studio because I was like, if I could kind of like have more space, then I'd be able to kind of like actually have what I need in order to like turn this into like, I don't know, whatever thought it was going to be at that time, like a big brand.
Hmm.
And so through that, I had like looked at a lot of different studio spaces. It's really hard in New York City to find good commercial space. And I was like looking to share it with other people. And it's really hard to figure out timings and price ranges and locations and things with other people. So it took a really long time to find the studio. And I had basically given up by the time I actually got the studio. But I had quit my full time job and I had taken a part time nannying gig with the idea of just focusing as much as I could on my natural dye work. And then I had a friend who sent me a cool studio space and was like, "Do you want to come check this out with me?" And I was like, "Yeah, I would love to." And so we went and we got shown the space. It was kind of cool, but it was like, I don't know, I didn't feel like anything that special. And then the broker was like, "Hey, we actually have this one other unit opening up if you have a flexible timeline. Like, it's a really unique space." And so then we toured what is now the RecCreate studio, and it's extremely unique. It was built out by the ceramicist as like a showroom studio. So like the whole studio is kind of like
Mm,
a sculptural art piece in and of itself. It's really unique, really beautiful.
that's
And I like
so
walked
cool.
in
Yeah, it
and my
looks
jaw was
amazing.
like on the floor. I was like, no
Yeah.
way. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna make this work, but like I need
You have to
this.
have it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel you. I thought you'd built it. I thought you built like that sort of infrastructure around it. Um, so I guess it was already like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A
that's
lot of it was.
amazing.
We built like a bar to match and we built a lot of the furniture and things like that. But like the
Hmm.
base of it was there,
Hmm.
which I think was so
That's
helpful in the
amazing.
beginning because I had so little like resources to put into it and to be able to like
Hmm.
have this really beautiful foundation that did a lot of the like design lift for me.
It
It
was
was
meant to be.
really nice. Yeah.
It was meant to be.
Totally. So the person who I was looking at the studio with, she ended up deciding it wasn't the right time for her. And so I was working a nannying job. I did not have a big savings. I had like good enough credit, but I was like 24. So it's like how good of credit can you have?
Oh wow.
And I was
Yeah.
like, I'm going to put in an application. And it's so beautiful. I was like, I know I can get people to share it with me and like lower it to a cost that I could actually afford. And I'm like, if I get approved, then it's meant to be. And if I can't get approved on my own, then I'll just move on. And so, spoiler alert, I got approved.
You got approved.
Yeah, and so I filled it with a few other artists. And the idea was that it was like an artist collective and my own studio. And I knew that I loved hosting. And so I wanted to have dedicated space in the studio where I'd be able to host natural dye workshops or whatever else. And so then the day came where I like moved in and I just was like, so it's especially space in New York City is like so hard to come by that I was just like hit with this like awareness of like, oh my gosh, like I have this beautiful space and I can do anything I want with it. And like the possibilities of that was just so exciting. And so that's how our very first event came to be. I put out a just an ad on Instagram. I had built like a small following of a couple thousand people through like my natural dye work. And I just put it out to strangers on the internet. And I was like, I'm hosting a collage morning. You can come if you want. I bought a few kitty scissors and like sticks of glue and got like donation magazines. I made coffee cake and coffee and just kind of opened up the doors. And there were probably like 40 people who
Oh
registered,
wow.
like 25 who showed up. Um,
Hmm.
and it was so special. Like that first event, there's still like quite a few people there who like I'm in touch with. I know like multiple people who made like good friends that day. There was just this like very magical quality about it. As a host, it was really cool to see that like, oh, I don't necessarily need to like teach people something super technical. Just getting to provide the space, the materials, create the environment, and then being like present with people was so awesome from like what my role in it was because
Sorry, my
bef-
cat's around.
No, you're so
Just
good.
have.
Because prior to that, I had always been in this like teacher role. And so to realize that like I can actually just create this environment for people and they don't necessarily need to like leave here with like highly technical skills was really cool. And so I was like, everyone loved it and I loved it. And so I was like, we have to do another one, which is how all good things begin, I guess.
Yeah.
And so then I did it again like the next week and then the next week. And then that event kind of morphed into what became Collage Club, which was like
Mm-hmm.
our first of like what we call our club format, which the idea of the club format is it's more self-guided. It's still like a guided experience. It has a start and an end time, but the actual activity itself, it's not a collage workshop. It's very much we provide the inspiration, the materials, the people, the space, the vibes, and then you show up and just like actually sit down and make
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
which I think is hard to carve out the time for. So I don't want to, I guess, jump too far ahead because I'm
Yeah.
sure you have other questions, but that's like the origin
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Like, I think when things are meant to be, like, things just kind of line up and fall into place. I mean, I really believe in that. So it's really cool to see that. And the space looks amazing. Like, yeah, I remember coming across it, like, I think a year ago, and I was just really inspired. It was definitely before I got my own studio, and I was really inspired by that. So at that time, you opened the space, what year was it? Like 2 years ago?
20 like
2020.
yeah, April of 2023.
April 2020. So when you opened the space, did you quit like your nanny gig straight away or
Not straight away, but it happened very fast. So
very fast?
I guess another kind of piece of this is that I not only started hosting these kind of club style events, I also would like do a lot of collaborations and I would basically host and produce for a lot of artists that were either like friends of friends I knew from Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And so they were able to bring in a lot of like skills and knowledge that I didn't necessarily have. And I was able to bring the space and the people and like the kind of workshop production mindset. And so that's how we started to have like a pretty big like variety of what we
Mm-hmm.
offered. Sorry, what was your specific question?
When you like took the full leap to
Uh,
just do the
yeah,
space full time, but I guess you said like pretty early on because you had also other people involved in the space. Oh my gosh, my cat is just here and I feel like he's gonna knock the computer out.
Yeah, so it
Hopefully
was
not.
like I left my nannying job in June and I'd
Mm-hmm.
opened the studio in April because things were just like so
Oh yeah, that's pretty
crazy and
quick.
I would go and I would like work and I would set up for the events and I would do all of like, the behind the scenes stuff that has to happen in order to make events possible. And then I would go
Mm-hmm.
to the nannying job and then I'd like get on my Vespa and I'd like zoom as fast as I could and I'd get to the studio just in time to like hopefully beat the first person that could show up.
Yeah.
And then I'd finish cleaning up at like 10:30, and then I'd go home and I'd do it all again, and it was just like
Next day, yeah.
full days. Yeah, and my employers were the parents of the family I nannied for were very sweet. They were very encouraging about the fact that I could do it
That
and
is
they
so
didn't need
cool.
me.
That is so cool. I did some nannying as well, like in between jobs. Going to nannying is like my backup career. So
Totally.
I've nannied a while as well. Also in Europe, where I'm from. I feel like
Yeah.
I totally feel you. It's a
I
good
feel
like
like
in between.
and just like the way that it uses like a totally different part of your brain, like
Yeah.
I think when there's so many people I feel like who have these creative careers and so it's so hard to spend time being creative in their like after work time, but when you're just like running around with kids all day then you're like I
Yeah.
don't know, I guess they call it like the lazy girl job, where it
I
keeps
love
your
it.
brain space free.
Lazy.
Yeah, I had a
Yeah.
job in horticulture for a couple summers, and I think a lot of like the seeds of what this became were kind of planted there because I just had like all day to like think.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was
Yeah.
working with my hands, but like my
Yeah.
brain was not engaged. So I was like listening to
Yeah.
podcasts and audiobooks and like just like being inside my own head.
Yeah, I love that, Lizzie. I guess that's kind of what happened to me as well. I was just not conscious of it, but now that you mention it, it's like, yeah, all that time that I've spent nannying, I've used my brain for other things as well. So that's quite
Yeah.
interesting.
Or like they're doing homework and I'm doing marketing, it's perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It ties up really well. So at what point when you open, because I guess when you opened the studio, you were thinking more about it to be for your dyeing. So at what point do you still do your dyeing? Like I actually don't know that. And at what point did it become more about like the space in the workshops, in the events?
Yeah, I think pretty quickly. I think I was a lot more burned out than I realized of just it's such a physical like craft and it requires so much just like manual labor. And I had kind of realized that like as much as I loved doing it, the main way that I saw people making a career from it was from doing like production scale dyeing. And I
Hmm.
just like learned pretty quick that I didn't have much of an interest in that. I do still occasionally do it, but I mostly enjoy teaching beginners and passing it on so that other people can experience it. So I'll generally teach like every few months.
The dye workshops.
Yeah, they've
Yeah.
gotten actually more popular lately. I think natural dye is maybe like growing
Yeah.
in people's
I
awareness.
f- yeah, I feel like a lot of crafts, a lot of like the old school or like very kind of natural old school crafts are really making a comeback. Like we saw that, I don't know, I feel like in America as well, but we saw that a lot with ceramics right after COVID. There was like a huge, and I think it's still really popular. Everyone wants to make ceramics. And when you think about ceramics, like they've been around for like thousands of years.
Totally.
So I guess probably the same with, I mean, I don't know anything about
Yeah.
dyeing.
And I think there's so many crafts like that too, where they have such like a rich history associated to them and they're
Yeah.
kind of like a lost art. And so to be able to like kind of
Yeah.
keep those traditions alive is really cool.
True, like yarn based stuff. Like I saw, I don't know if you know them, but there is, I think they opened the second or a third location now in New York. That's like the sewing center, something like that.
And like
Do
the
you know
Sewing
it?
Academy.
Sewing Academy. Yeah, maybe that's the name. Yeah, I follow them on
I think
social
we're
media. I'm
talking
not
about the same
sure.
thing. I haven't
Yeah,
been there, but I
yeah,
was just talking to somebody yesterday who has been and spoke really highly about it.
yeah. They seem like they have a huge space, and I'm pretty sure they just opened this a second or even a third space in Williamsburg,
Yeah.
which is where you are, right?
I'm in
You
Clinton
are.
Hill, which is pretty close.
Clinton Hill. Okay, Clinton Hill. Yeah, I'm not very geographically.
Yeah,
I
that's
know like
okay.
Williamsburg is a neighborhood that I want to stay in, and there's a lot of things there that I want to visit, but I'm not very, never been to New York. I'm planning next year.
Yeah.
So how has like, so you started off with just a collage club, and how in some collaborations, how has it evolved to what it was in the beginning, and what are you running now?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been quite the little adventure. I've learned a lot. There's been lots of different iterations of what it's been, but now we have kind of a lot of our own internal programming, which is like that club format that I was talking about earlier. So we have all different club style events. So like we have a collage club, a print club, a clay club, a knit club, and those are those kind of lower ticket, more self-guided experiences. And then we also still do a lot of workshops as well. We have a lot of like local artists that we partner with to put on really cool, unique workshops. We also do a lot of like brand and corporate events as well. And I have a whole team that supports me. So
That's
that's the
amazing.
best part for me. But yeah,
Yeah,
we're up
that's
to like
amazing.
15 to 20 events
Oh,
roughly
events.
every month.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And how big is your team? Like when you say you have a team, is it like the collaborators that come in for the different workshops, or do you employ like a set number of people? How does that work?
Yeah, so we have four hosts and facilitators. I'm still the only full-time person. We have one person who's
Mhm.
getting close to full-time.
Mhm.
And then who's like the studio and community operations manager who does all of that. And then I also have another part-time operations person as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Awesome. And they do other jobs on top of it, or is it like they just do that and help you manage the studio?
A couple of
Yeah.
them, it's their only
Yeah.
job, and then a couple of them have other jobs. I think I've
Extra.
definitely
Yeah.
found a lot more success with people who have like their just like more varied employment, like they're not
Mhm.
necessarily working a 9 to 5.
Mhm.
They maybe are balancing like multiple things or they have their own artistic practice or different things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I found that part of hiring like quite tricky, because it's so hard to create a job that it's like full time straight away when you're, just by yourself, because it feels like quite a risky business decision. But then it's so hard to like get the right people in the right capacity. But yeah, that's really cool. So you have four people in you. And when you quit your nanny job, did you go full time and the business was able to like pay you like an income, or did you live off savings, or how did that like financial wise? How did it work in the beginning?
Yeah. Basically, for the summer, I kind of lived out of my savings and just like I literally have kind of always operated as like I kind of pay myself what I can. It's gotten like a
Mm-hmm.
little more intentional over time, but I'm still like I've chosen to make the decision. Like there's so many different ways that people navigate the whole like when do you quit your job? Do you quit your job kind of a thing. I really don't like working for other people and am very comfortable living off. I won't say I'm very comfortable, but I don't need a lot in general.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
to me, it was always like I would so much prefer to like have time and space in my life to like spend on the things that I care about, like my business, but also like my friends and my family and my social life and my own hobbies. Like being able to have some semblance of work-life balance was totally worth it to me to like live a little tighter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes total sense. That makes total sense. I think the going full time is a question. You must also get it all the time, but it's something that like I get asked all the time. Like, and people ask me like, should I quit my job? And I always feel like it's so tricky because I can't tell someone to quit the job. Like it's just this. It's too much of a personal. Like, how much risk are you willing to take?
Are you
Like I had
comfortable
already
with?
quit my
Yeah.
job. Yeah, exactly. Like I had already quitting my job for the first because did some marketing freelancing before the workshops, and in quitting that first job to go freelancing, that was like that for me felt like the craziest decision ever. But then after that I quit all the jobs and it's not as crazy, but yeah, people are always very curious about that part. It's why
Totally.
that's
I
why I
think
was asking.
depending on like what point in your career you're at too, like I was 24, you know, like I
Yeah,
didn't have this big, like, and I was nanny and like the income was
yeah,
not that drastically different than like what I
yeah,
was making off of
exactly.
my like early career
Yeah.
jobs.
It's like,
So
yeah, it's the stakes. Like, how much is at stake? Like, someone who has like two kids and a mortgage,
yeah, absolutely. It's a
they
different,
probably can't. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
totally.
But yeah, I think sometimes people just like want sort of a map, like you do this and it works, but it's like everyone's maps are different. It's like I know that from the outside, like I see all these people with amazing studios, and I can see that from the outside, it kind of looks like they're all doing the same thing, so they must have all followed the same steps. But no, like especially with having this conversation on the podcast, everyone
Yeah,
has such different backgrounds, different skills, different ways that they got there, that you can't, like, you have to make your own map. And I think that's the scary part. I mean, I find it exciting, but in the start, it could be scary, I suppose.
totally. And I think, yeah, I think there's pros and cons to that. I think that's one thing that's funny about this industry is like there isn't really anyone to follow, it feels like. Like, I feel like I've
Yeah.
spent so much time, like, with trial and error and, like, figuring it out in a way that has making it probably take so much longer than, like, if I was opening a cafe where there's kind of like this
Hmm.
there's a lot of different versions of it, but there's still this, like, kind of standard blueprint of, okay, like, this is how you make money doing this. And
Hmm.
I feel like
Yeah.
for these kind of new social creative spaces, there isn't many people to look up to, and so you have to kind of forge your own
Yeah.
path and figure out and then obviously everybody's different too, so figuring out what works for you.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. No, I totally agree. And I think it's also like a really interesting sort of, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's just a trend. I think it's more like this new generation of younger people are a bit more revolting against like screens, and I guess it's like the opposite of like we've been so connected that now doing things in person and disconnecting is so much more valuable in a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's a whole different topic, and I want to go back to your workshops more specifically because I remember to see, I think on the website or maybe on social media, that with your more structured work, because I guess you have like the clubs which are
Mhm.
more casual, I would say, less structure, but with your more structured workshops where you have like a ceremony, a meditation, did I read that well, in like some sort of like gallery type thing? Like how did that format kind of came around? Was it like something intentionally that you created, and like what was the process of that, or how did you kind of land on that flow?
Yeah, totally. So that's one thing that's consistent over all of our events is every event has an opening ceremony, which includes a meditation, an opportunity for connection, a little bit about RecCreate, studio notes, the host. There's like a whole little list of things. And then also like every event has an inspiration session, a demo as applicable, and then we'll have conversation prompts throughout. And we generally end with a little gallery and our closing ceremony. So that's like the container. Because, like I said, like it's self-guided in the sense that like you get to make whatever you want, but it is
Yeah.
a like guided container with a start and an end time. And I really love the experience design element and really thinking about like, okay, what is our goal? Like, what do we want people to be leaving this space with? Like, what is our real like value add to them? And then how do we design like every part of the experience as much as within our control, at least, right? To support those things so that we can like
Mm-hmm.
really deliver on what we're promising. And I think as the team has grown too, just really having to kind of like everyone says it in their own words and in their own kind of little way, but it's not a script, but it is like it's a bulleted list, you know, of like these are the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
things that make up a RecCreate event.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be able to have that sense of expectation for people who come back of like, okay, I kind of know like how this is going to go. And also just like thinking of those things all as like invitations into the kind of experience that they have been invited to. And I think like the meditation is kind of this moment for everybody to like ground themselves in the space together. Our studio is kind of hard to get to.
Love it.
People are rushing from work. It's like up in a commercial building, so it's like kind of stressful. So having this moment, or it's just like stressful to be in a completely new environment sometimes too. So having this moment of like, okay, we're gonna all like take a second and center together, and then taking moments for connection and communicating like what we think is so special about like having the opportunity to sit across the table from friends and strangers and make art together. It's kind of like inviting them into why we do what we do, and they can take that or leave that, you know, like none of these is a requirement,
Yeah.
but it's all kind of contributing to that purpose of helping people um, really just experiment and play and be willing to meet new people and just like come with an openness that I think will help them leave feeling the most satisfied.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I love it. I love it. It's something that I've never really done in my events, but I love like the intentionality of creating like designing experiences. I feel like that's probably where I still like have a lot to improve because I went straight into like I know I can sell anything, but then I'll sometimes overlook the experience, which is kind of like not really great because I think the experience is the most important thing because if you have like a great experience kind of the marketing also becomes easier. But because marketing is my background, I'll bulldoze my way into getting people in. Like designing experience has been like really in the top of my mind, especially this year, seeing like creators from around the world doing really awesome things. How did you get into like experience design? Is that like something I guess it just evolved with having the space, or like did you read anything or like any resources that you like might pop in your mind?
Yeah, I love to read. I've learned so much from reading. How I
Mm-hmm.
got into it, I think, was yeah, I don't know like I can't pinpoint kind of the exact moment where
Mm-hmm.
it all kind of started. I think The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker. I feel like that can be kind of a divisive book, and I never finished it, to be honest. But I think especially the
Interesting.
first few chapters, the whole don't be a chill host thing, I think is incredibly valuable. And I think a lot of the whole idea of the don't be a chill host is like if you aren't willing to like take control of the space that you have created, then other people will, and your guests will be subject to
Mm-hmm.
those other people who are taking control of the space. And so, and also just a
Mm-hmm.
lot of like, she has a lot of cool concepts around like world building and things like that, and expectation setting, which we have found to be like a huge piece of like having people feel happy with their experiences,
Mm-hmm.
having a clear idea of what they can expect. But that being said, I think the whole idea of don't be a chill host is that like those moments where like we're the ones who are going to cling the bell and we're going to ask you the conversation prompt, and it like the first time we have hosts like practice that, they're like, oh, it feels kind of weird. And I'm like, yeah, but like you're going to get more comfortable with like how you feel most comfortable communicating that. And also like what a cool opportunity then for the people who are a little more nervous, a little more introverted, to be able to actually like extend themselves to other people because you were the one who was willing to like extend yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes total sense. I need to like look up that book. I don't think it came across me.
Oh, no way.
That's so
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. That's so awesome. So at your events, you say you do like between 50 and 20 a month. Would you say, like, do you have mostly people coming by themselves, or do you see like a lot of people coming like again and again, or do they come with friends? Like, what is, I mean, I don't know if there is like a set, like I know it can vary, but what would you say that is the crowd like at the events?
Totally. I think
If you can generalize, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely depends. We do have a lot of people who come alone. We very much like market ourselves as and have like designed the space to be solo friendly. There are also people who come regularly who are like, yeah, I know I should bring my friends here because they would love it, but I just love that it's like my place. So we have those people. We definitely have a lot of returners. I think kind of yeah, weekends or kind of these more like the more like viral events, people will tend to kind of like bring friend groups too. But we have a lot of people who like just moved to the city, are looking to meet people. A lot of people who just live in the neighborhood, and so it's easy for them to pop over. I know, sorry, I'm not answering your question with like specific percentages. I would say it is
That's okay.
predominantly people who come alone, but it is a good mix.
Okay.
And we do have a good amount of returners, but we also have tons of new people all the time as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And do you have like, do you know any kind of like percentage just from the top of your head of like people returning to the space?
I don't have the percentage,
Yeah. No,
unfortunately.
that's totally fine. I mean, I also don't. But yeah, I feel you. That's so awesome. And I feel like you kind of already touched base with like talking about how the structure kind of goes, but what has been like some small things that you've done during the workshops, whether that's like about the space or about how you run it, kind of help people facilitate, like especially when strangers are meeting strangers, that have kind of like facilitated their interaction and made people feel comfortable and leave with connections.
Yeah, definitely in the physical design of the space. So we have long communal tables. So everything's first come, first
Hmm.
serve, self-seated, which is really cool. So like no, even the people who come with friends, they're sitting down with people that they don't know, unless they brought a group of like 9.
Hmm.
So that also the kind of part of the opening ceremony where everyone does their little introductions and answers their fun little questions, kind of those like opportunities for connection throughout. I think the thing before the like I was saying earlier, like I feel like the expectation kind of setting piece is so important. And I think before people even come, they know like how we've communicated what the space is. And so many people come because they're looking to meet new people. And so I think there is kind of this expectation of like, oh, other people are also looking for that in a way that makes it feel like a little less vulnerable. We also do solo
Hmm.
date nights, which are really fun. We used to
Oh,
do one
cool.
every month. We have to bring them back now that it's like getting colder again. But the idea of that is you come completely alone. So those are kind of like the lowest barrier of like, every single person there is coming alone and is either looking to have like this great night with themselves, but most likely to also like meet other new people. So that's
Hmm.
really cool. And then part of our closing ceremony is we always encourage people to exchange socials or numbers if they met somebody cool. And I feel like even something as simple as like mentioning that at the end helps people to feel like, okay, like, could I have your Instagram? You know what I mean? Because it was like kind of
Yeah.
facilitated by.
Yeah, that makes total sense. That's so cute. That's really, that's a really cool thing. I feel like with my events, it's been mostly like people coming together with friends,
Hmm.
but I guess it's just like a very different, like there's not even 500,000 people in my city, so it's a very different sort of demographic
Yeah,
environment thing.
totally.
With the managing of the space itself, what has been like kind of an unexpected, not necessarily challenge or bad thing, but like an unexpected thing that you never thought that there would be involved with like managing a physical space? So that's like one side of the question. And then the other side is, which can also coincide with being an unexpected thing, but what has been like the biggest challenge with, the whole process of managing the space or the workshops or the financials or whatever it is, like biggest challenge. So unexpected thing doesn't necessarily have to be a bad, difficult challenge thing in challenge thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. I think the most unexpected thing has just been like how hard it has been to manage like inventory. I think it's a constant, like it feels like every time we get a semblance of a system, like it's like there's 3 new events and now we have all this felt because we started felting
Yeah.
and like or all this wool because we started felting. And now we're doing like ring carving, and we just have these like we have these crazy materials. We're like, what do you use that for? You know? And it's
Yep.
great. Like in the beginning, it's something I would say to anybody is like in the beginning, make sure that as many of your events as possible like overlap with materials, because one, it's going to save you so much money and sanity. But as time goes on, we haven't been able to maintain that principle. So that has definitely been, and it's just like organization and storage is like so expensive. It's crazy what you have to shell out for like a nice set of like Muji drawers. So managing that has been challenging unexpectedly as far as just like general biggest challenge. I think there's just like so many moving parts. I guess that's like the event industry in general, but it feels like there's just all of these tiny little things all the time. And the more events that you do and the bigger your team is, the more that those things kind of grow. And so, like, the building of the systems that support being able to like navigate all of those like tiny little things all the time. But having a studio manager has like been absolutely amazing, because I am not the like, I don't know,
The
I don't
only
like
person.
tedious things. And so like I'm just not like, I'm not great at keeping things super organized and clean, and like having somebody who like can like every single like week mop the studio, you know what I mean, is like amazing.
Yeah.
Because little
Yeah.
things like that just go such a long way in like the overall
Mm-hmm.
like maintenance of the space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's so many little things that sometimes, like when you're very creative and you like running it, and it's yours. There's so many, like there's just so many moving parts. It's really cool that you got someone that can help you with taking some of those things off your plate and leaves you more time and headspace to kind of grow it, which is something that I wanted to go into. I know you also do other things, I guess related with RecCreate, but sort of differently, but still about like RecCreate itself. I wanted to like chat a little bit about like the growth of it, because I know you, and also the growth in terms of how the space has evolved. I know there's a lot of collaborations, but like in terms of, I know you said you started like with just a couple thousand followers and now you're, I think, over 30,000. So how is it like, what is, if there's like any kind of initial investment that you made into it other than just time, or how did that growth kind of evolve? I don't know if you want to chat too much about numbers. I know that some people are really open about it. Other people don't like to talk about it so much. It's really up to you how broad or how specific of a picture you want to paint of like how the growth of RecCreate has happened across the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, where do I start? Yeah, we have grown from, the biggest thing that has happened is like I would say like systemization and like professionalization of the operation. I think I goal with RecRate is not to create like an empire. Like I don't want one in every city. I don't feel the need to like have 1,000 of these. Like I don't, the answer to me to like people living more creative and communal lives, like we're grateful to like be a piece of that, but there's so many other places that you're going to find that. So all that being said, I think figuring out like how to build this into something that can be like self-sustaining and can like continue on as far as the financials in the beginning go, I it's all been like very bootstrapped. The kind of crazy part of my like founder story is I won a sweepstakes like
Oh,
6 months
wow.
before I opened the studio. And so
Wow.
because of that sweepstakes, I had the money to put down like 3 months rent on the studio, which is like $7,500. I had like 10K in savings, which like was like the most I'd ever had in my bank account living in New York
Yeah.
City at once. So I was feeling very good about that. Now I'm like, okay, that would last like a day. Um, um, yeah, so it's been really entirely bootstrapped. In the beginning, I shared the studio with other people for the first 6 months, and that really lowered the cost of, I think I was paying like under $1,000 for sure. I want to say it was like 750 for the studio the first like 6 months. And so that made that a lot more affordable. But other than that, like I've just been slowly reinvesting all of the money that we've made. I've not taken out any loans. I've not taken on any investment. I don't plan to. So it's all been like very self-funded. And I think because of that, like we've grown maybe slowly by some people's standards, but I think we've been able to grow like very intentionally and thoughtfully and in like a really value aligned way. But I think As far as like, I'm like, it's funny because it's like, obviously we've grown so much, but it has at the end of the day only been the 2.5 years. So growing to like the consistent amount of events, but really, like I said, the biggest thing has been really the fact that it's not just me running everything. And so now, like,
Mm-hmm.
the more like systemized that things are, the more that there is like a way that we do things and like more people involved, just like slowly every month frees up more and more of my time to be able to like do other
Other
things and
things.
to contribute to like building the space more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Like, do you remember? Because I know when you opened the studio, like you had that collage event, and then you started doing like every week or so. Like, and now you do 15 to 20 a month. How was that growth? Like, did you went very fast, straight going into like 10, 15, 20 a month, or how did that play out across time?
Yeah. I think we definitely went up pretty quick because I had to be running a certain amount in order to be like paying my expenses. And so that's where it's kind of like the volume of them has like slowly increased, but it's like one of the huge transitions has been I used to like every single event was like an entirely new one-off event, which is like there's pros and cons to collaborations. I think there's a lot of pros, but the cons of them is like you're reinventing the wheel every single time, and the amount of time that is involved in that for like the payoff is like not always worth it. And so like building out our own internal programming has been like really huge because like we own that and we can run it as often as we want, and the event can be tomorrow and it didn't create 40 hours of work for me, because everything's set and we know what we need and we know how it runs and the host knows how to facilitate it. And it's all a lot more plug and play. And so being able to like build out all of those things has been really awesome. And it's just been, that's what has allowed us to then start to scale and be able to host so many more events. But now we're kind of at a point where the goal isn't to do, I don't want to have every single second of every single day filled with events. It's to do a really consistent amount and then kind of build up. We do a lot of like private events as well, which are really what like kind of financially sustains a lot of our public programming. And so the more that we're able to like do that kind of work and do less for more money, then we're able to
Mm-hmm.
like maintain that consistent amount of public events and have things still be really accessible because that's a huge value of ours.
Yeah, that makes sense. So would you say that you have like I know you have the private events and the public events, but do you do kits or something like that, or do you do merch? I thought I saw something like that.
No, we don't
No?
have any kits or
No.
merch. No products yet. My like
Interesting.
sustainability
Yeah.
background like, is getting in the way
Just
of products, but I'm
yeah.
sure it'll happen eventually.
Yeah. Interesting. So your main revenue streams would be like the private and the public while it's all around events. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that's so cool. Would you say that there's like quiet times of the year, like slow times of the year and more busier times of the year, or is it kind of consistent across like the calendar year?
Yeah, no, it's very seasonal. In the summer, nobody
Yeah.
wants to craft. Everyone wants to go to
Oh.
Europe and be in the park and things slow way down. So yeah, I'm at the point where this is my third summer and I like
Yeah.
I've tried so hard. And I think for a while it
Yeah.
was like, I'm just not trying hard enough. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
now I
Yeah.
finally just accepted that like this is like there's so many businesses that are seasonal. Like we are not alone in this, and how do we like really embrace that and use that time to make what we do all year round even better,
Hmm.
and also just do like fun, more unique stuff that's kind of more involved and hard to do in the busier seasons. Like we've done a camp both of the past 2 summers, which has been really fun. One
Oh,
was in
cool.
Oregon and one was in Vermont, and those are like so special and fun but also so labor intensive, so to be able to like have more room in the calendar to be able to do unique things like that is really fun.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. That I always find it very interesting how like the different seasons affect like it seems to be a little bit different between like not even country, but just like from the how do I explain this? Like the dynamics of a city can change
Is it
and
different in
can
New Zealand?
affect. Yeah, like summer here is quite like it's quite busy, I would say.
Okay.
I mean, there's because summer here is in Christmas time.
Right.
So there will be a quiet between Christmas and like New Year's or the first like half of January. A lot of people are away because it's like the summer holidays. So people are out of the cities and camping. But other than that, like that kind of month around that, it's the busiest time. While in winter here, peak winter would be August, and it's the worst time ever. Like I usually only do like 4 or 5, and 5 is already stretching it. Like August is a really month. But yeah, it's quite interesting to see the kind of how people are different,
Well, but it's the same months that are bad for us, which is interesting.
That
so
is
maybe
true.
It's about the months and not the season.
Maybe it's exactly. I don't know. I mean, I think it's more connected to the seasons, but
yeah, probably.
yeah. Anyway, more into, because I know that I don't know how long you've been doing it. I don't know, because I found you on TikTok just a couple weeks ago, but I know that you do like, I guess not really outside of RecCreate because I guess it's related, but you've been doing like there's a Substack and I guess some like coaching or mentoring. Like, I don't know. I've seen a lot of your posts, but I don't know what you actually kind of offer or do for people. Yeah. But if you wanted to talk more about that and explain like what it is, how it started, and like what are you doing?
Yeah, totally. So our RecCreate's Substack is called Musing, muse-ing. And our studio manager, who's also a writer, runs that. It's super fun. It goes out about every other week. And the whole concept of it is it's like a creative digest. So it's not like we're writing super long form things. It's a lot of stuff that like we're feeling inspired by and like pulling from the internet to just help people live more creative and communal lives, which is our whole goal. So we'll feature things that are happening in the city that are kind of outside of the craft space. We'll do like creative meditations. We'll do like inspo boards. We'll have little prompts, feature DIY projects, artists we're really inspired by, all different kinds of stuff like that. And it's really fun little, I don't know, I loved it. Email is coming back, because I feel like our email inboxes have gotten like so stuffed with just like promotional nonsense. And so I love the Substacks that I follow where I get to have like a fun email, to look like that email that you look forward to. So that's what we hope that Musing is for other creative people. And it's also cool because obviously right now all of our programming is based in New York City, but Musing anyone can subscribe to from anywhere in the world, which is a really special part of it too. So that's Musing.
That's awesome.
Craft Employed, all very new. It has come from just that I get emails every single month that are like, can we have a coffee chat? Can we have a coffee chat? And I'm so honored that people want to have a coffee chat, but I am at my max capacity and I cannot have coffee chats with every single person, at least without contributing to my bank account. I'm just kidding. Kind of.
No, it's fair. I respect that. I think that's important.
But that being said, it doesn't have like a specific, like I opened up kind of like an office hours, like 30-minute, like hyper focus kind of calls for anyone who wants to like pick my brain about like one kind of specific thing. But mostly I've started posting on Substack. That one's called Craft Employed, and then also just posting on TikTok. And I'm really excited to just like continue to learn what people are excited to learn, I guess, because I feel like more and more everyone is kind of wanting to build creative community, which is so beautiful, and we need so many more spaces like this. And so trying to figure out just like what working on like digital resources, online kind of like community style stuff, maybe like a longer course. A lot of it's very in the works, but just figuring out like that seems like something, a real need that like people have. And we've learned, so like I was saying before, like there's no blueprint to this kind of stuff, and we're not gonna like prescribe our blueprint to anybody. But I think having had to navigate a lot of these learnings, you like learn the nuance to things in a way that I think can help you. I mean, you'd probably do this every day. Like you can better help other people make decisions from like the information that you have. So that's kind of the goal with it. We'll see where it goes. My big goal right now is on what I'm calling my finishing what I started. And I love the new next thing. That is the fun thing to me. And the more challenging thing is like making every single, like what you were talking about with your marketing. Like to me, it's so much easier too to just like market everything, build something new, be like, sign up for this, but then not to actually have the like full follow through. And I've just been thinking a lot about the fact that my best ideas and my team's best ideas and like the things that people are really resonating with like deserve to be seen like all the way through,
Mm-hmm.
in a
Mm-hmm.
season of kind
Yeah.
of like doing that. And then in the new year, we'll be able to work
Yeah.
on all the fun Bruin projects.
Yeah, that sounds really exciting. Yeah, it sounds like it's funny. Like it sounds like you are with your online stuff of what you're trying to do with Craft Employed. It sounds like you are where I was like maybe a year and a half ago.
Mm,
Because I had started sharing, like when I started my workshop business, I started in like 6 months later. It was the quiet Christmas time. And that's when I started like sharing things on social media. And that like took off, I would say took off even more or like more, like a bigger scale than my workshops, which is a local small business, right?
totally.
And so at the start, I was like, how, like, what do I make with this? How do I make with this? And then across the last like year and a half, it evolved into what I call the academy. But I think that's such a, like, yeah, that used to be me, like getting people to like asking me all the time, like, can I have a coffee? Not so much have a coffee like in person, because like no one
Yeah.
is in New Zealand, but like people asking the same questions again and again and again. And I totally agree with like, there is no, like, I can't tell people exactly, like I can tell them like, specific tutorials about like how to run ads or how to do this or how to do a listing or whatever. But in terms of the blueprint, people have to build their own blueprint. And that's like one of the things that I really enjoy with the academy is like trying to get people to think about like what do they want their life to look like. This is gonna like or lead to the next question I wanted to ask you, which is like, what do you want your life to be like? And then how does this business or activity going to feed into it so that you actually love what you do? Otherwise, like I found that people who are doing it either just to make money or for just one specific small reason, like it's not enough to sustain it. So my question for you is, actually, I mean, I want that to be the last question, but I have another question. So
That's
maybe
okay.
I'll just backtrack, because I don't think I've asked you much like about sort of the promotion of your events. Like I know you said at the start you didn't have, because I know that's something people ask all the time. And sometimes I overlook it because it kind of comes more innate to me. But how did you grow your social media, or like what was the initial promotion of those events? Like I can imagine now you have a lot of word of mouth and you have a big account, but how did that evolve to that point? And like, did you like run any ads and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah. We have not run any ads. Maybe like $10 in the beginning or something.
Mm-hmm.
But pretty much zero paid ads. Have found a lot of people just through social media in general. So we've had, the TikToks that blow up, which are amazing for a little while, they give you like what I found is like there's like the TikTok to Instagram pipeline. I don't know if you're on TikTok. Are you on TikTok?
I am, but I don't. Yeah, I am, but I don't use it that much, to be honest.
Okay. Well, now Instagram is moving that way with like Reels and the way it pushes it out to people who don't actually know about you. But like previously, what I found is that like TikTok is such a great way to like find people who don't know about you, and then they'll
Mm-hmm.
like follow you on Instagram if you push them that way. And then Instagram's where we're like more promoting specific events and like our upcoming calendar, things like that. So I find that that's like a pretty common thing that I see. And then a lot of like in the beginning, it was a lot of like things to do in New York City. Like I would reach out to like the Nudge, if you've heard them. They like did a lot of promotion of us, especially in the beginning. And then there are like there's all these like influencers. It's so funny. I'm like, is this niche to New York City? Other places must have these things. Like there's these influencers who are like, this is what you should do in New York City this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so those places have been really awesome. And then another huge piece was just like collaborations. Like I would say like as much as like we take on collaborations much more thoughtfully now, just because how we've scaled doesn't have as much room for them. In the beginning, like that was a huge way that we like built an audience, but also like built a lot of trust by working with other people who people already followed and already trusted. And when there was like alignment there, it would bring in other people who were aligned. So I think that's also been a pretty big piece.
So you say it was more like like organic post collaborations, but also like organic posting that kind of snowballed into growing your audience in your account, I suppose.
Yeah, I think just like
Yeah.
being really consistent with it, which I know is not what people want to hear because it's like it's like they want the answer that'll get it tomorrow, but it's like we didn't have 31,000 followers in the beginning, and I think honestly, like you were telling me before we started this call about how the algorithm has hid me, and I think there are challenges to having a bigger account. I think Instagram
Hmm.
does not like bigger accounts, and I think
Yeah.
oftentimes you can have a lot more direct access to your audience when you're smaller. I think people should
Yeah.
not let that be what gets in the way because I think there are so many ways to like work with a small like you don't need a huge audience to fill events.
Yeah. No, no, I totally agree. I think I totally agree with sometimes having a bigger account can penalize you more than help you. Like I think,
Mhm.
yeah, I think people glamorize, they think they see the number, but it's actually like the number of followers doesn't say much about the work that you actually do. Like there's people with thousand followers and they make barely any money, and people with a very small following. Like when I first started selling out my workshops, I had like barely maybe even 200 followers. But well, I ran ads, so there's that. But yeah, I totally feel you. And I guess kind of, I count these interviews to be like an hour. I don't know if there's anything that you wanted to touch and talk about that we haven't talked about.
Mm. I feel like a question that I get a lot that people might be interested in is just like
Mm-hmm.
how to balance like profitability with accessibility. And I think there's
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of
Yes.
conversations in this space right now, which I think are very warranted. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's very nuanced. But from the get go, like we have always like approached this from a sense that like creativity and community should be like a privilege or should not be a privilege.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so figuring out how to make our events as accessible as possible while also being like a tiny, tiny New York City business, um, which has so many of its own financial challenges, has like just been something that we've really thought a lot about and worked a lot on. And we've tried so many different things. But I think for anyone who's also kind of navigating that or trying to figure that out, I think just like my encouragement would be to just be as creative as you can because it doesn't have to look one way. And like what are kind of like we have I would say like an ecosystem that contributes to accessibility. Like we have a volunteer program where people can work exchange. We have a community event every month. We also occasionally will get event sponsors, so we're able to have events be donation based. So just like finding, or like sometimes we'll work with collaborators who are willing to do a couple like scholarship spots, and we'll build that into the pricing model so that like other people's tickets are also supporting these either like
Mm.
discounted tickets or free tickets for people who can't afford that right now. So, yeah, I don't know. I just encourage you to be creative because I don't think it has to be one or the other. And like we take our like margins and our profitability really seriously because that's how we're able to sustain ourselves and to continue to keep our doors open and continue to employ the amazing people that we employ. But it also doesn't mean that it's like has to be like a money grab. So like really figuring out those numbers and like what will keep you healthy, but like being able to keep things balanced and not necessarily making more than you need to if your goal is accessibility.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Did you still like kind of about that topic? Because I know you mentioned you studied business, so is that something that you've always been mindful, like from the beginning, there was your focus, or did you like what kind of led you to that, like thinking or strategy, if you want to call it that?
Like the business aspect.
Yeah,
Oh, I love it.
yeah,
That's like I love
yeah.
it.
That's
I
also
like I do
yeah.
love hosting, but I like love the business building too. It's been like such a
Mm-hmm,
fun challenge for me. Like I went to school for business, but I wouldn't really say I'm so grateful for my education. I think it opened so many doors in terms of like realms of thinking and like practice and things
same.
like that that I didn't even know about, but I don't think it was very practically helpful, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm,
And I feel like most of what I've learned has been from books. And it's so fun to like grow in my knowledge of these things and to really like I think it's helped me be such a more like confident business owner. Maybe that sounds silly, but it's like I used
no,
to
that
just
still
feel
sounds
like
fine.
when you don't know about the numbers, like you feel crazy. Like they're like it's like how do you I don't know, if you're just hoping that every month like you'll have sold enough tickets to like be able to pay people, that's like so terrible. And so it's so
No, that's true.
empowering. I guess it's the same with your personal finances, but it's like the more empowered you are to know about the numbers and to be structuring things like really intentionally and thoughtfully and to like know what's going on in your business, I think for me has been so incredible. And like I said, like with the accessibility piece too, of knowing exactly what we need to charge to make what we need to like support us, but then also to like not just charge a certain amount because we can. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
we wouldn't have necessarily been able to like find that balance if I was just like, well, this price feels good.
mm-hmm. No, no, that's not a good strategy.
But I think it's
No,
what
I
a lot of
totally.
people do.
Yeah, yeah, they do. And I think a lot of people also like they look at someone else. Like I think there is a component of like market research and see what other people around you are charging. Like I think that's important. But you can't just look at someone else who's has different background and been doing it in a different way or whatever and copy exactly what they're charging because those are their numbers. Like you don't know the background of their numbers. And I think like I don't think you need a business degree to know your numbers, but you need to know your numbers, like a spreadsheet. I mean, I prefer spreadsheets, a piece of paper, like it's simple math, but you need to know the numbers you're dealing with. So yeah, I totally feel you. So last couple of questions before I let you go. The first one is what I feel like you kind of already answered, but you might have a different answer to this specific question, which is what would be like your one for someone who wants to do exactly what you're doing, like someone or similar different version. What would be like your number one piece of advice for them? So that's the first question. And then the second is kind of in terms, I mean, you already also mentioned that you don't see RecCreate being like a multiple location kind of empire thing. You see it more as a piece of the puzzle contributing it. But what do you see like the future of RecCreate in terms of the current location or what you're doing? And also, where do you see yourself kind of like in 5 years? Like, it doesn't have to be 5 years specifically, but like in the future, don't want to
Yeah.
like sound like I'm interviewing you for a job.
It's okay. I like hopefully I can keep track of the
Where
questions.
do you see yourself?
Number one was what piece of advice would I give
Advice.
somebody?
Yeah.
I think I think if you're somebody who's like looking to not only like throw events, but who like wants to build community and build experiences, like to remember that like you are in the hospitality business and like at the end of the day, there's nothing more important than how you make people feel. I think back to those early days, people had kitty scissors and they shared them. You know what I mean? And they came
Oh,
back. Like that is
yeah.
not optimal, let me say. Materials and people having what they need, very high on the list of importance. I don't want to like diminish that, but I think
Mm-hmm.
like the studio was not like very well temperature controlled in the beginning before we figured that out. Like it was really warm or really cold. Like there were so many things like about the experience and I was still figuring out like how everything ran. We were doing so many things for the first time. Like mistakes were made. There we were so far from perfect. And we're still far from perfect, but we've learned so much. But I think like what we had back then that I hope that I know we still have now is like the ability to make people feel seen and known and safe. And I think, especially if you want to facilitate spaces where people are comfortable to introduce themselves to other people, to try something that they've never done before, like that's so vulnerable. And so making people feel like they are safe to do that in your space is like the number one thing that you can offer them. And the coolest part about that is it's like completely free.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the experience itself.
Yeah. And then I would say your second question was what's the future of RecCreate?
Yeah, like the future of RecCreate, but also how does that connect with like how you see yourself in the future of like the things that you want to do?
Yeah. Well, I love what you said earlier about the idea that your business should support your life because that's like absolutely the way in which I have like built it and I hope to like always continue to do that. I think I feel it like it has been this whole time. It's going to be kind of one
Mm-hmm.
thing at a time, but I feel really excited about the idea of kind of a recreate ecosystem. One thing I did learn in business school was like this idea that there's the common misconception that in a business like your value proposition is your product, right? So like if you were a
Mm-hmm.
toothbrush company, your value proposition would be toothbrushes. But what I learned was like the idea that your value proposition is never your product. So it's not toothbrushes, it's like making people's teeth clean. I'm like, why did I choose this analogy? I could have just talked about my own business. Anyway, and so that's what like allows you, there's so many ways to like do what you do in different products. That's why like, never mind. I'm going to go away from the toothbrush analogy, but just like the idea that like if our whole goal is to be like catalyst for creativity and community, there are so many different forms that could take. And there's already so many forms that we've explored. So being able to like more fully build out those things in the future feels really exciting, and just have so many different like touch points and different ways to like experience what we do, I think feels really cool. And how that supports me in 5 years. In 5 years, I'd love to have a family. I've worked really hard, even just in the last like year, to not have like tons of night and weekend work. So I think figuring out ways to like build businesses that also support like when I want to be working is kind of huge. I think I'll likely still be in New York City. So the thought of like building more things here feels really exciting. Yeah, we'll see. I just hope I'm like constantly learning and trying new things, but also that I'm like finishing the things that I start. And I have no doubt that in my life, I'm going to start a lot of things because I love to start things. But I also hope that I can finish them really well as well, and let them keep living beyond me.
Yeah, that sounds like a great goal and sounds awesome. I think that's very exciting, and I can't wait to. I haven't booked tickets yet. I've been saying to everyone that I'm going to New York, and I will. Yeah. But I haven't booked tickets yet. I think I'm going to try to book something in December. Cool. So I'll definitely like RecCreate is on my top 5 places to visit. So
amazing.
I don't know if I'll see you there, but yeah, but I'm definitely coming to visit. I mean, I could spend the rest of the day asking you questions, but it's already like an hour and 10. So I think we will wrap it up. Thank you so much for coming to channel the podcast. Like, this is the exact reason why I started the podcast, is more like to chat with the people who are doing sort of kind of what I want to do in terms of the physical side of the business. And it's just so inspiring to me. And I know that if I'm learning so much, I know that there will be, thousands of other people who will learn so much as well. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I will wrap it up in here. I don't know if you have anything like last little thought to say, but if not, thank you, Liz. And I guess I will see you in New York, hopefully, maybe.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me, and I will see you soon.
Awesome. I was like, bye.
Bye.
Cool. All right. So this is now stopped, I think. Yeah. But don't leave me. I don't know if you see